men of the civil rights movement tend to dominate our historical narrative of the movement for racial equality in this country. Men like the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. captured the camera's attention out in front at demonstrations and boycotts. But just as sure as there was a civil rights movement, there were women who made it possible. And recently, I had the chance to visit the Freedom Sisters exhibit at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. I want to start with a little bit of a discussion here about Miss Myrlie Evers Williams. And I want to start with her because she was recently a guest on the show. She was bringing so much knowledge and information. Why the decision to include her?
You know, one of the reasons that Myrlie Evers Williams is included here is because it's so important to tell young people especially that you too can lead, you too can be a force for change. You know, it doesn't have to be somebody from centuries ago who's no longer here. There's still a lot of work to be done.
To walk into this space, I had to walk past the motel,
yes,
where Dr. King stood and was assassinated. I had to stop and step back a little bit because it just impacts you. When that assassin took Dr. King, he also created Coretta Scott King in certain ways. Is that part of the story of these women in the civil rights movement? Is that part of how some of them come to us?
I think so. I absolutely think so. That history sort of thrust them into the limelight, even when they have traditionally been in roles of mother, and they've been, of course, known in the African American community, but it thrust them onto the world stage.
You can't pick favorites among civil rights activists. It's sort of ridiculous.
Right.
But if I had to pick a favorite, it is undoubtedly Ida B. Wells. And, you know, I think it's probably because she was a journalist and she was a social scientist, right? She believed that you could use data and evidence to organize.
Yes.
And also, she was kind of fancy. I mean, she used to, you know, she would buy beautiful clothes and sometimes spend her whole budget on a nice bag and forget that she had to do it. I mean, I love her for the humanity of who she is.
And at such an early age, she had to take on so much responsibility.
Yes.
And that makes you want to respect her even more.
Yep.
I mean, at age 16, to have, you know, 4 siblings or more that you were responsible for, you know, and she raised them and she stayed focused, you know, about her work on behalf of the race.
Baker was a part of every single civil rights movement of her entire life. There's no part of it that she doesn't at some point engage and is a part of.
Absolutely. And the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and Martin Luther King recognized her skills and ability, and she was one of the few women who was a part of that organization, helped to lead that organization, and really was instrumental in introducing young people to SCLC and SCLC to them.
Now I want to talk to you about the jelly bean jar because we've actually done work with the jelly beans on my show in a couple different ways. I said, there's something funny for me about counting jelly beans because jelly bean jars were part of how people were disenfranchised in the South. So when young people, when school kids come and they see these jelly beans, what do they think this is about and what do you teach them about it?
You know, young people are really not sure what this is about, and so we're really glad that we have this interactive here so they can learn what it's all about, because the idea that a person would have to guess how many beans are in a jar, which is what this is all about, and this was the kind of thing that black voters or those who wanted to vote were confronted with when they went to registrar offices.
Where does sort of this kind of go see it, touch it, feel it museum fit in a world full of iPads and email and digital information? Why do I need to come stand in Memphis? Why can't you just send me an email with an Ella Baker picture?
African American museums in particular are really important so that you understand the story behind Grandma's quilt. You know, you understand the story behind the cast iron pot. You know, that when you look at Granddad's ticket stub or his pay stub, you understand what they did with nothing. And it helps you to appreciate more where you are.
When we come back, we are going back even further. Do you know who Essie was? You're going to want to, and you'll find out why next.